United Nations Special Envoy on Myanmar, Noeleen Heyzer, will step down this month after an 18-month tenure. Dr. Heyzer, who'd been tasked by the UN with finding a way out for crisis-hit Myanmar, had faced multiple hurdles since day one. Envoy Kit with this report.
From civilians to the Myanmar military and the civilian National Unity Government, UN envoy Noeleen Heyzer's job is to engage all stakeholders and find a way out of the crisis in Myanmar. Despite meeting military chief Min Aung Hlaing in August last year, Dr. Heyzer couldn't convince him to end violence. I spoke with Dr. Heyzer in an exclusive interview earlier this year when she said she would focus on various key areas, including setting up a system to protect civilians from airstrikes. She's also urged for parties like the civilian NUG for their involvement to channel aid into Myanmar. This differs from ASEAN's approach, which is to send aid through the bloc's humanitarian arm, AHA Center.
They could be complementary, but right now neither of them is working. The first approach through the AHA Center isn't working because it has to go through the SAC, through the State Administration Council, through the junta. The inclusive humanitarian forum that the UN Special Representative has proposed requires the cooperation, and in fact the assistance of Myanmar's neighbors, whether it's China, India, Thailand, and while there are large technically illegal aid structures being set up on the border in all of these countries, it's very difficult to bring those into the tent and make them part of an official inclusive humanitarian forum. So each of those approaches has problems.
The military authorities learned a new way of doing things and viewing that ASEAN engagement space as something that they could manipulate. So the important thing is to be able to use the wide networks, say for example, that ASEAN has with the international humanitarian aid community to find other creative, maybe more innovative and direct ways of working with community networks on the ground.
But obstacles on the ground remain. So far, not a single envoy, diplomat or country is able to make any inroads with the Myanmar army. ASEAN remains on track to use an agreed peace plan known as the 5-point consensus as a means to find a resolution for Myanmar. There are also other ongoing tracks, from quiet diplomacy to direct talks with the army involving Myanmar's neighbours like India and Thailand. All this in the hope of ending violence and charting the way forward for Myanmar. Leong Wai Kit, CNA.